The heat wave is up. The fantasy football season is just around the corner, and your drafts are probably taking place. And that's why you are scrambling to listen to as many podcasts and read as many articles as you can and find as many stats as you can. And you're going to all these places. You're going to the left, you're going to the right, you're going to the center, you're going up, you're going down, all over the internet. You don't know where to find it. You could find everything you need to dominate your drafts, every single thing in one easy app, and it's 100% free. I mean, do I even have to sell it beyond that? The Fantasy Football by Broto app, every single stat you need, including proven stats. We did the math. Proven stats that help you win fantasy championships. And it is brought to you and brought to us by our lovely patrons, our amazing patrons over at patreon.com/BrotoFantasy. If you want to support the show and get a bunch of extras that we're going to talk about in a second, join up. We'll be talking soon. Let's listen to this intro. Welcome back in, Mike. It's fantasy season, baby.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Broto Fantasy Football Podcast presented by BrotoFantasy.com and the Fantasy Football by Broto app, the only tool you need to dominate fantasy football.
Oh, I'm a singer. You know, I like my voice, you know. I don't think I'm a singer or anything. Don't get me wrong. But listening to me after listening to Nelly for like 32 weeks, it's just disappointing. It's just disappointing.
32 weeks, huh?
32 days. That voice is the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend.
Hello.
My bro, my guy, the man himself. Michael, what's good, man?
What up, team?
So, you know, we have an announcement to make on this show, on this show today, where we'll get right into that, because we do have our hat hangers, and the hat hangers today is a very special episode. We're hanging our hats on one guy. One. We're not doing like I pick 4 or 5 and I make a list and I say, oh, you know, I like this guy, but not. No, one. And all of our writers are doing the same. They're picking one guy and they are hanging their hat on that man right there. And I'm happy to say last year, my hat hanger was CD Lamb to take the next jump into superstardom after having a disappointing sophomore season. And I got to say, I pretty much nailed that one, baby.
CD's nuts. Got him.
Michael, do you remember your hat? Oh, I remember your hat hanger last year. It was half right. You know, it was okay.
Was it Juju?
It was Juju. Yeah, it was Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah. I mean, he had a decent season. He wasn't a wide receiver 1, but
I mean, you said he was going to be a high-end wide receiver 2. He ended up being a low-end, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. So it's not like he missed, but definitely. But you can't hit everyone 100%. But we got a bunch of the writers from BrotoFantasy.com and the Fantasy Football by Broto app. And speaking of writers, we have an announcement for the upcoming season. So for the upcoming season, we are going to be switching the style up a little bit because of the evolution of the brand, because of the evolution of the product, and because of where we've come as a company and as a team, and over the past few years. For those of you who have been here with us for this long, thank you. We love you guys, and our patrons are the best. Like, it's been so cool spending fantasy season just kind of like in the Discord, talking shit with the patrons. Like today, one of our patrons who won back-to-back championships in the Broto Dynasty League. We were going back and forth on Matt Ryan, and it's cool having relationships like this with these guys. It's awesome. It really is. Michael got mad at me for that one. He's like, yo, guys, don't get Tim started on Matt Ryan.
Yeah, please. Don't get now you're getting yourself into it. Like, now you're just gonna start arguing with yourself. I can see it happening.
But I mean, so where I'm going with this is, when we first started this 6 years ago, we were just a podcast, and we were worried about, making the podcast great and being the next big podcast. And then, priorities change. We shifted. We were like, we were doing this research, and it was taking us forever. And, it was just like, why isn't there an app on your phone that you could find all these stats, like that you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for? And that even the ones you do pay for, like, they're a little lackluster. So we were like, how come this doesn't exist? And the only way to make it exist is to make it exist. And that's what we did. We made it exist. The Fantasy Football by Broto app. And, it even evolved as we went. Originally, it was just supposed to be a place for our content and our stats, like our exclusive stats. But then, we brought on Santiago Casanova, who started out as a fan of the show and then came and became part of the Broto family. And he was able to work his magic into, developing great tools for the app. And we were able to use our brains and use our creativity. Shout out to Jason, who also had a big part in this, who's not on the show right now, to kind of concoct a formula and concoct what we wanted to put the perfect thing that we would want to see if we were doing fantasy research. And we really do fantasy research on the app. We do it. It's one of the great ways. It's one of the great things that, like, why I'm so comfortable telling you to use these tools, because we know they work and we use them, and we want you to use them. And anyway, this is very long-winded. The reason why I'm telling you all this, giving you some background information, because we're gonna be making a giant shift in the way we do things, and I feel like it's the end of an era. So I'm a little emotional about it. You know what I mean? So we are going to be stepping back a little bit from the public for the public podcast game, and we're going to be diverting our attention a little bit to creating the company as a whole and contributing to the company as a whole, rather than solely the podcast. But don't be scared, because the podcast is still coming every week. Here's what's coming in the upcoming week. So if you are a patron over at patreon.com, for as little as patreon.com/BrotoFantasy, for as little as $3 a month, you get a ton of extras. And now one of those extras that you're going to be getting is a podcast every week, a full podcast where, we've been toying with formats the last couple of years. We used to do every single fantasy relevant player, but we found that we weren't giving enough true attention to everything in that route, right? So we decided to switch. And last year we did the mailbag for the patrons plus like our guys, and that allowed us to hit on stuff more. But also, like, maybe we're saying something that doesn't really apply to anyone that's listening, because it is, everyone has a different team. So what we've decided to do now is we're going to make this very patron help focused. So we'll have different segments where we're giving you some things we see, some stuff, and we'll give you the entire rundown. I don't want to give you the entire rundown right now, but we're going to be having like a show, and then mailbags every week where we're going to take patrons and we're going to talk about the patrons, what the patrons want to talk about. We're still going to be on the free feed a little bit. We're going to have once a week, we're going to do a new segment for free. So we're not going to be off of your free feed at all. And also, we're not going to be off your feed at all. If you join patreon.com, it goes straight to your feed, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any one of these other tools. I don't know the specifics about the other tools, but I know Apple and Spotify, the two biggest ones. And in the app itself, it goes straight there if you are a patron. All you got to do is put in your username and stuff like that. So, yeah, so that's what's going to happen with the podcast this year. We are going to be giving the patrons 2 podcasts a week. The extra podcast that they always get, the waiver pod with Michael, the secret sauce of the Broto stew, for sure. And then the Thursday, this Thursday update with our picks, our focus, and really concentrating on what our patrons want to hear, having long conversations about what our patrons want to hear, going into detail about what our patrons need, what the people who trust in us to give them fantasy advice, what they need, And this is not something that, like, you can sign up for the Patreon just for the season and then back out and then come back and back out. Like, it's not something that but there's also yearly discounts. So if you want to get a whole year, you get 2 months free if you sign up for the whole year. So and with the NFL, that's the NFL's year round these days, and so is the podcast. So a little bit of an end of an era when it comes to that. So we are moving to Patreon exclusive. Besides the news, we'll still be dropping a new segment for the public every week. Me and Michael. But yeah, I mean, we're not stepping back from the work. Me and Michael will be putting out articles. You're going to see a lot of our work that we would have been saying in the podcast in articles. And other stuff like it is also going to open us up to do a little more social media interaction, our social media presence. Definitely since the app has become a thing, our social media presence has definitely taken a hit in terms of our attention to it. Like we just don't have the time to tweet the things that we used to. So we'll get back to tweeting, get back to the Instagram for the followers there. It'll really open our horizons to create some different varieties of content rather than just focusing on those specific podcasts that do take up a lot of time, even with the app making it easy. So, yeah, that's where we're at. I hope everyone sticks around. Patreon.com/Broto Fantasy to support. We would really appreciate your support because this is what keeps the lights on is the Patreon. Without the Patreon, there is no way that the app continues or the podcast continues. Like you're seeing us on YouTube right now. The StreamYard service that we use to do this needs money, and the patrons provide that. So it's a business, and the patrons literally fund like their gas. We've taken not a single cent out of this company, and in fact, like, and not to go into detail, but it's the opposite way. So we put it all back into the business, and that's why we are progressing the way that we're progressing and giving you more and more and more as much as we can, and how we can bring on a crack team of writers that we're going to get on right here for hat hangers. And yeah, we hope you understand, and we hope you come join us on patreon.com/Broto Fantasy. Michael, you any thoughts? I've just been talking a lot in the row.
Yeah, it's about a 10-minute breakdown. I could do the what's the Reddit thing that people do,
Get a
like
little closer to your mic, Michael. You're like a little, yeah.
like the Reddit
go.
summary thing. Basically, we're moving the Thursday pods to Patreon. You'll still get a glimpse of it on your feed, but yeah, come over and join us. I mean, not much to add to what Tim said. You'll still hear us if you become a patron, and we're still going to be churning out everything that you need to to produce a fantasy championship. I think after like Tim said, we've been podcasting for 5+ years now. I think our resumes speak for themselves in terms of fantasy success, just ourselves, and fantasy success of our patrons. So
And
hope to see you there.
and I know fantasy football is entertaining, it is, but if you don't have time like that, and you can either listen to other podcasts and try to pick out where your player is mentioned for 5 seconds or 10 seconds for 5 hours across the week. You could do that, or you could join patreon.com and literally have us make a private podcast for you. Put you at the forefront. We want to put you at the forefront, the listener. The people who have been with us, who are rocking with us, who take our advice. We want to personalize it more towards you. If you're thinking about a trade, we want to talk that trade out. If you're thinking about a start-sit decision, we want to talk that out. We want to really go into detail about like what you need to do to win. And that's the opportunity you have, especially now early on when it's not overwhelming to do that. Come join up. Come join us. All right. So with that being said, Michael, how you doing, man? My throat is dry. I'm talking too much.
I'm ready to discuss my hat hanger.
So this is a hat hanger segment. If you don't already know what that is, it's our clever, different way of saying what everyone does, and everyone needs to say this one. It's our guy, basically. It's who we're planting our flag on. It's who we are. It's our guy. It's whatever you want to call it. Hat hanger is what we call it. We're hanging our hat on this guy. You know why? Because when you come home, you hang your hat on your hat hanger, and it's steady. It stays there. It supports you. Or you hang that hat in the hat hanger and the freaking hat, then someone breaks in the house. That guy, no, let's try and stay away from that guy. All right?
I was going to say the hat hanger just falls. You said someone breaks into the house.
It's that. Look, it feels that bad when you have a hat hanger that doesn't hit.
I don't know.
Fortunately for me, I don't know what that feels like. All right. So, with that being said, we do have a crack team of writers that is going to be here. I've been watching Ted Lasso, Michael.
Nice.
Yeah,
It's
it's just
poopy.
it's poopy. All right. Yeah, Jamie's accent is mad funny. I wonder if there's like where his dialect is from, like his
No
specific
idea, but he
dialect. I think
sounds different from everyone else in the show too. It's
yeah,
funny.
Kelly. I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry.
love you, Kayla.
All right. So we've got a crack team of writers, man. Like I said already, we got Femi, we got Trenton, we got Giancarlo Luca Stanton. We got we got Nick, aka Bick, and we got Clay. Now, if you are a fan of the Broto universe and not just the podcast, you already know these guys because these guys are weekly contributors and just stacked. We're stacked. So they some of them is gonna be face reveal for some of them.
Yeah.
So with that being said, um, Michael, you want to start off with us, or you want to start off with them, and then we can kind of react. What do you think?
What if we bookend?
We bookend. All right, you want to start it off, Michael, because you seem to be chomping at the bit for your hat hanger this year.
I mean, I'm just staring at your hat. I see the sign in the background, and it's
Uh,
getting me amped.
oh, it's a jet. Okay, Michael, tell us. I already know who it is, but tell us all about it.
Yeah, this one's gonna be easy, plain and simple. It's Garrett Wilson. If you've been listening the entire offseason, or following along in the Discord, you know how much we like Garrett Wilson this year. Look, the guy put up 1,000 yards plus last year with Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White throwing him the ball. He was 50th and outside the top 15 true target value and was still a top 30 wide receiver as a rookie. He absolutely dominated in several games last year despite the bad quarterback play. And now he gets Aaron Rodgers coming over as the clear number one wide receiver on the team. And guess what, guys? Aaron Rodgers is better than Zach Wilson. Aaron Rodgers is better than Mike White. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, and people are acting like the guy's washed because he struggled a little bit more than typical last year when he had a messed up hand and was throwing to no-name wide receivers like Romeo Dubs. I am completely against the Aaron Rodgers is washed landscape out there. I think he's going to be great for the Jets. I think the Jets are going to be great, and I think Garrett Wilson is going to be the next Devontae Adams. We've seen Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, Donald Driver. You name the number one wide receiver on the Packers, and you get ridiculous production. Christian Watson last year at the second half of the year was a wide receiver one when he was finally healthy with Aaron Rodgers. So I think Garrett Wilson has top 3 overall wide receiver upside. And he's my dude this year. That's my guy, Garrett Wilson.
I like it, Michael. And there was a time in the past, a time long ago, where Michael's guy, I think it was either your guy or Michael's, but we were both super on the Justin Jefferson train. And Michael even more.
When
Michael
he was a
reaching,
sophomore.
Yeah, Michael was reaching in a lot of drafts with a lot of money on the line. Michael was reaching. So we were all aboard that train and it worked out. And Michael pointed out the parallels between the Garrett Wilson like storyline, the Garrett Wilson theme, and the Justin Jefferson theme. So we're Jets fans, obviously. So there could be people out there being haters, like they're just being biased or whatever. But we've never nominated a Jet for this before. So
No, I don't think I have. Yeah.
I mean, there has been no one. We haven't. Our last first round, Michael, and this is a trivia question that I asked last, so you might know the answer. Do you know who the Jets' last first round pick was at wide receiver before Garrett Wilson in 2021?
Brandon Marshall.
Brandon Marshall was not drafted by the Jets, Michael.
Oh, drafted.
Drafted in the first round.
I thought you meant fantasy football.
Oh no, not no. In the real life draft.
So the most recent receiver drafted in the first round since prior to Garrett Wilson.
Yes.
Oof. I know there is a bunch of scrubs like our Darius Stewart and company, but those weren't first rounders. Wayne Corbett.
Santana Moss.
Santana Moss,
bro. Yo, speaking of, oh my God, speaking of Scrubs. I keep hearing something coming over here. I was like, so what's going on? I don't know. I lost my train of thought. But let's get into someone else. And speaking of scrubs, this guy is the complete opposite of a scrub. This is Themi. Now, if you don't know Themi, get familiar with Themi. Follow him on Instagram. We're gonna throw up his name. We're gonna throw up his Instagram handle when
Twitter.
his hat hanger Twitter handle, excuse me, when his hat hanger comes up. But his ability to mix these great articles with great stats and great analysis with humor and just being an all-around great dude. They don't make him like Themi a lot. So we're gonna hear from Themi first for his hat
Hat hanger.
hanger. Let's do it.
My hat hanger for 2023 is Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Drake London. London was a phenomenal prospect coming out of college, and his draft capital backed how the Falcons felt about him. He was the 8th overall pick and the first wide receiver off the board. Now, draft capital isn't everything. We've seen highly drafted wide receivers fade away, but London commanded 117 targets and a 29.25% target share as a rookie. He averaged over 2 yards per route run and saw a second half boom to end the season with Desmond Ridder at quarterback. His true target value ranked 8th. I understand that volume is hard to come by in this offense. Head coach Arthur Smith came from Tennessee, and he brought that run-heavy philosophy with him. The Falcons ran the ball 57.4% of the time, which was second most in the league. They also ran 55.4% of the time when trailing. Now, adding rookie phenom Bijan Robinson to this offense isn't going to help that number go down, but there's only so much you can reasonably run when you have two phenomenal athletes to pass to. I'd expect the average team pass attempts to look a lot closer to Desmond Ridder's 28.75 than Marcus Mariota's 21.4. And Ridder only threw 2 touchdowns. London caught 4 in this season, and he can push for a lot more touchdowns and weekly upside because he had a third of all-team red zone targets in 2022. Even if his percentage drops a little bit with Kyle Pitts playing a full season, if the total team red zone targets increase, he's only going to benefit from that. I have faith that even with Kyle Pitts playing a full season alongside him, there will be just enough to go around. Outside of the big 3 skill position players, nobody stands out. London is being drafted as the half PPR wide receiver 24 on Sleeper. I just don't see what kind of upside you're getting from someone like DJ Moore, Jerry Jeudy, or DeAndre Hopkins, who are all going after or before London. And it's not like we haven't seen talented wide receivers thrive in systems like this. A.J. Brown played in Tennessee, and I know that people were disappointed with his ceiling, but he was still a wide receiver 1 on a points per game basis. Obviously, he reached his ceiling in Philadelphia, and London could probably do that too. But it's not like it's impossible to see him smash this wide receiver 24 ADP.
All right. Sorry, I was on mute there. All right, how do we get out of this now? There it is. All right. So, interesting.
You sound like you're from London.
some hot takes from Themi there for sure. I like Drake London. I like the Falcons offense. I can't say much about this one because in order for I'm not gonna say anything because I'm invested in this pick. I'll say that. But with that being said, it's interesting. I don't know if I would take him over a guy like Jerry Jeudy or a guy like DeAndre Hopkins.
Well, now Jerry Jeudy with the injury, you're definitely taking London over him.
I mean, they say Jerry Jeudy might be ready for week 1.
Yeah, they say a lot.
They do say a lot. But if he actually is ready for week 1, doesn't miss any time, then I'm still taking Jeudy.
I mean, you're drafting today. You're going to take Jeudy over London? I'm not.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's a solid pick. I mean, it's hard to argue over an upside sophomore wide receiver who had a huge rookie season and a massive elite level target share. So similar to Mr. Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
I did draft Drake London in our home league as well. I've said that he's not someone I'm like necessarily targeting, but he's also someone I'm not fading. If the draft falls in a way where Drake London makes sense for my team, I'll definitely take him, even with the Desmond Ridder question marks.
I believe in Desmond Ridder. I've talked about Desmond Ridder on this podcast. I have good feelings about Desmond Ridder this year. Not necessarily to be one of the best passers in the league, but to be adequate enough to make some things happen. With that being said, let's get into our next guy. Our next guy is he started last year. He had some college content on the website. He was a great find for us, and he does not shy to let you know that he nailed this pick last year. I'll tell you that. Um, let's go to our guy Trenton for the next hat hanger here as I find it. Yes, go. What?
Come on, Tim, you got this.
What just happened?
Nothing happened. What do
I
you
know.
mean?
Well, I don't know why. Ready, set, go. Okay. That didn't work. All right. So we're going to get that together. And we are going to go over to one of our our writers from the very beginning. And one of the best fantasy players I play. And anytime that he's in a league, I know that he's going to give me a run for my money and he's going to give me a hard time. Gianluca, let's hear from the man himself. Hopefully this works.
Take one.
Take one.
What's up, everybody? Gianluca here, and my hat hanger for the 2023 season is wide receiver out of Washington, Jahan Dotson. Now, Jahan Dotson had an up and down rookie year. After scoring 4 touchdowns in his first 4 NFL games, he got injured with an ankle injury that set him out for 5 games. However, the next 3 games after he came back, he was still trying to get into game shape, so he was a bit off. However, the last 5 games of his season, he put up identical numbers to Terry McLaurin. He had 35 targets, 21 receptions, 344 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin, on the other hand, had 34 targets, 23 receptions, 351 yards, and 3 touchdowns. These are pretty similar numbers, and the draft cost for these two players is wildly different. Terry McLaurin is currently going as wide receiver 21, while Jahan Dotson you can get 15 wide receiver slots later at wide receiver 36. Wide receiver 36 in ADP does not make sense for someone who finished in the top 24 wide receivers last season 6 times. He's going into his second season, which we all know for wide receivers is often even better than their first year. And if he can stay healthy this season, I think he's an absolute smash value at wide receiver 36 and could potentially even outscore Terry McLaurin throughout the whole season. Thank you.
Okay. Tim, you're muted, kid.
Yeah. Okay, I like this one. I think Jahan Dotson definitely has some appeal, to say the least. He's like the only problem I have with him is the quarterback situation. If the quarterback situation was even a little more clear, like if even like Jacoby Brissett was the starting quarterback, I would feel a little bit better about it. Unfortunately, just a bad quarterback situation. So
you like Desmond Ritter, but not Sam Howell?
yes, Desmond Ritter had 4 games under his belt last year, got drafted 2 rounds earlier, and I mean it's not like the same situation.
Look, we've gone through 3 hat hangers: Garrett Wilson, Drake London, and Jahan Dotson. I've drafted 2 of them in my home league, and it wasn't my hat hanger in Garrett Wilson. It was Drake London and Jahan Dotson. So I know there's a lot of very smart people in on Jahan Dotson this year. He's another one similar to Drake London. I'm not necessarily targeting him. I'm not necessarily fading him. If the draft falls where I get him, I'm not going to be upset about it. I don't think he could outscore Terry McLaurin. I think Scary Terry has been just super underappreciated his entire career in the NFL with the quarterbacks that he's had and the production he's put up with those quarterbacks. So I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I do think Dotson and McLaurin could both be highly valuable wide receivers.
All right. We're gonna give this one more try.
Trenton
for Trenton because I re-downloaded it and everything. All right. So we're gonna see if Trenton here can get it going. Let's go. Let's get Trenton. Looks like it says whoops, your video file does not have a video track. I don't know why that is the case here. But maybe I can do that on maybe I can upload it as MP3. We'll try and do that, but we'll give you an actual MP3. Clay, Clay Jones, the infamous Clay's Corner, the most concise and awesome DFS tip that you're gonna get weekly. I mean, Clay is a fantasy head, You know, he eats, breathes, and sleeps this stuff. He loves it, and you could tell in his writing. So, with that being said, Clay did not send in a
Video.
video. Yes, you sent in an audio file. So, we're gonna play the audio file and just look awkward on the screen as it plays.
Hey everyone, this is Clay, aka FF Pulse 88. I'm bringing you my hat hanger for 2023. This one's pretty easy for me. It's Big Mike Williams for the LA Chargers. The Chargers were second in plays per game last season, as well as second in passing rate at 63.8%. They're also 12th in points per game last season. But the real difference maker, Joe Lombardi and the Mickey Mouse offense is out. In comes Kellen Moore. How much of a difference can Kellen Moore make? Well, based on intended air yards per pass attempt last year, Dallas ranked 8.1, which was 12th best. And guess where the LA Chargers ranked? Dead last at 6.3. Kellen Moore is going to make a huge difference for Mike Williams. I mean, even last year when he missed 5 games, he still had pretty big numbers. He had 93 targets in 13 games. Now, he only finished with 63 receptions for 895 yards and 4 touchdowns. But if he stays healthy, and as far as we can tell, based on all the reporting he has been, Mike Williams should have a huge season. He should finish as a wide receiver 1 in points per game in 2023. You heard it here first.
I absolutely
Hey everyone,
love
this is
that.
Clay.
I absolutely love that. I am 100% on board. I think Mike Williams is being criminally underrated this year. I think this is a guy who I'm going to talk about a little bit in the upcoming episode, is the sleepers and bust episode. He's not my sleeper or bust, just to put that out there, but I talk about him in one of my other categories. And I mentioned that he was the wide receiver 12 and 13 the 2 previous years to last year before he got hurt. And Clay just mentioned how he was still super effective when he was on the field. And really, I think my belief comes in, like he said, Kellen Moore. And his combination, Kellen Moore plus Justin Herbert, and what I think they're capable of. I'm going to say this in public for the first time. I've been waiting for this because we've been doing heat waves that are like super, I got money, and I'm predicting. I think Justin Herbert wins the NFL MVP this year, as a result of Kellen Moore coming over from the Cowboys and just letting him air it out. I mentioned in one of the podcasts how the difference between Dak's abilities and Dak's ability to go downfield, ability to throw touchdowns, like it all went on to the next level when Kellen Moore arrived. His stats were somewhat mediocre, and then Kellen Moore arrived, and he became one of the best throwers and quarterbacks in the NBA. I mean, in the NFL. And when you think about Justin Herbert, I think you can say with pretty much, certainty that Justin Herbert is a more talented quarterback than Dak Prescott. So I'm very excited to see what they do together. And I'm all about this Mike Williams take. Mike, how do you feel about it?
Was that audio coming through well for you, Tim? Because
It was.
All right, hopefully it's all good for everyone else listening too, because I heard everything like this. So it was hard for me to understand what Clay was saying. I don't know if it was just like an audio thing on my end. So I can't really comment on what Clay said, but I can say
he said Mike Williams. I hope that
I know it was Mike Williams. Yeah.
We'll see if we can fix it in post.
On the other side, I just haven't been drafting much of Mike Williams. I understand why you and Clay would like him. I just, every time it gets to his area of the draft, there's someone else I like a little bit more.
All right. I mean, that's fair too. That is also the part of the draft where if you don't get one of the running backs around there, then you're looking at quite the pile of running backs left in like the 7th, 8th, 9th round. All right. So it's not going to happen with Trenton's thing, but
maybe we could add him in post as well. We'll try.
No. We're just gonna do it old school. I'm gonna share my screen like I'm giving a presentation.
Very nice. Does audio work when you share your screen?
Yeah, of course it does. Come on,
all
now.
Right.
Come on now. Streams are better. All right, so I'm sharing the screen, and we're gonna play this.
What's going on, Broto fam? It's Trenton back again with another hat hanger. 2023. Last year in 2022, I decided to go with Justin Fields as my hat hanger. That ended up going pretty well as Fields wound up a top 10 quarterback in fantasy football. And I'd like to keep that track record going this year and see if we can't nail another target. So for 2023, I've decided to hang my hat on Marquise Brown of the Arizona Cardinals. Let's take a look at why. Through the first 6 weeks of 2022, Marquise Brown was one of the best fantasy wide receivers in football. In that time frame, he had 43 catches on 64 targets, compiling 485 yards and 3 scores, and finishing that stretch as the wide receiver 5 in PPR leagues with 108.5 points. If you extrapolate that over a 17-week pace, he would have finished with 122 catches on 181 targets for 1,374 yards and 8.5 touchdowns. Now, of course, that isn't sustainable volume, but that does set him up to be a high-quality receiving weapon for your fantasy team. Especially more so now that DeAndre Hopkins, the main target hog in that offense, once Brown returned from his foot injury, Hopkins is now gone in Tennessee. That could lead to more volume for Brown and should lead to greater performances, even if he does not reach the standards of those first 6 weeks of 2022. The questions, of course, that are being asked is, what will Kyler Murray's absence, how long will he be gone? Will he be back quickly enough, or will we have to stick with Colt McCoy in under center, and how will that affect Brown? We also have to look at how he came back from his injury, not looking quite as he did in those first 6 weeks. After that 5-week span in which he was out, he came back and wasn't nearly putting up the same numbers. Of course, part of that has to do with Hopkins being back. So with Hopkins gone, again, he could return to that volume. And again, speaking of health, you have to look at the overall health of that Cardinals receiving room as a whole. As everybody knows, last year, that group was decimated by injuries, everybody going in and out and in and out, in and out. This year, if they can stay healthy, there could be more targets to feed, such as Rondale Moore, another guy I really like in that offense. Of course, there's only one hat hanger I can go with, so I'm choosing Marquise Brown and hoping that once Kyler Murray returns, the volume will increase and Brown could be a very sneaky pick, as he is currently going, I believe, in the 6th to 7th round of your fantasy draft.
I'm gonna take myself off mute one of these days. All right, so I mean,
let me just add something real quick.
I don't know.
Trenton recorded and posted this the day before, about like 3 days ago, and about 2 days ago, or was it yesterday? Colt McCoy was released. So, but either way, I think
Colt McCoy,
I don't think
Josh
the sentiment
Dobbs
would have changed. Yeah, whether it's Josh Dobbs, Clayton Tune. Look, I'm all aboard the riskiness that Trenton is diving headfirst into here.
Last year he did the same thing with Justin Fields. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I personally, with Josh Dobbs, Clayton Tune, Kyler Murray, it seems to me like they're tanking. I don't foresee Kyler Murray returning anytime soon. So I basically have just been avoiding all Cardinals players. I don't know if I've drafted a single Cardinals player this season.
I will say this would be interesting. We have seen a little bit of a trend in the last couple of years of the NFL trading deadline being a little more active than it usually is.
That's not, yeah. If Hollywood Brown gets traded to a contender halfway through the year, he could be one of those big weapons. So then maybe try to trade for him like week 7.
All right, we got one more, and then your boy, of course, but the one, the only, we call him Bick as a I don't know where that comes from really, but that's what we call him out of love. And he is Nick. Pronounce his last name for me, Michael.
Boulier.
There you go. No, he's gonna be mad at us if we got that wrong. But he's been speaking about longtime supporters of the show. He was with me even on another podcast, and he has been a contributor. He's been part of the Tingle. Inside joke. Shout out to the Tingle. He's become a writer and a friend and someone that we enjoy spending the fantasy season with. And you're gonna see exactly why as soon as we put this video on up. So with no further ado, the Bic hat hanger.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Nick, and today I am here to present you my 2023 hat hanger, Ramondre Stevenson. Now, I know what most of you are probably thinking, but Nick, they just signed Zeke. He's going to take all the red zone work. He's going to do this and that. It's fine. I'm not scared of Ezekiel Elliott because of how well Ramondre Stevenson played in 2022. During weeks 3 through 13, Ramondre Stevenson was the RB5 in both points per game and overall in PPR scoring. He led the entire New England Patriots roster in receptions with 69. Nice. It is very clear and evident that he is the centerpiece of this offense. And not to mention, it was one of the most abysmal offenses I've seen from New England Patriots since my 24 years of being alive under defensive coordinator Matt Patricia calling the offensive plays. Like, now we have Bill O'Brien come in. We expect the offense to improve and all the pieces along with it. And I think Ramondre is going to be huge this year. And even in a lost season for New England, he ranked top 12 in rushing yards, yards per carry, targets, receptions, receiving yards per game, true target value, PPR points per game, target percent, and big plays across the entire NFL. He was the definition of an RB1 in every single facet of his game besides the red zone. But he doesn't even need touchdowns to produce, and that's why I'm not scared of Zeke, long story short. Ramondre Stevenson is an elite level producer all across the field and in his pass blocking, which is going to give him more third downs than any other running back on this roster. Ramondre Stevenson is a locked and loaded RB1. Ezekiel Elliott will complement him great, but he will not take enough work for it to be significant. And Ramondre Stevenson will be an amazing value at the 3-4 turn. Buy the dip, buy Ramondre Stevenson, reap the benefits, and win your fantasy leagues. Thanks.
That Hamilton beanie though. Let's go, Nick.
That
And I
was
do want to say one thing too.
the one and only.
The Patriots today, they went wild. They cut Bailey Zappi. They cut the quarterback from Louisville.
Cunningham.
They also cut their entire running back room. They cut Ty Montgomery, Kevin Harris, Pierre Strong, or whatever that dude's name is. It's just Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke. Like, I'm sure they'll bring in another running back, but they cut everyone except Stevenson and Zeke. Like, Stevenson is going to get a ridiculous amount of work, and I'm all aboard the Steven season train as well. Another guy that I took in our home league.
You reached for it.
I did. I took him late second round after all the wide receivers that I wanted got taken. So I reached for him. I went with him. I'm a big Steven season guy this year too. So shout out to Nick.
So far, your team is basically just our writers' hat hangers.
Yeah, I love it. You think you think they write for Broto or something?
I will say at one point he put his thumb like this, like he's like Ramondre Stevenson. He's like very Barack Obama-ish. Ramondre Stevenson is going to be RB1.
Thank you.
So my Barack Obama sounds like Elvis.
You used to have a good George Bush.
I used to, but I don't really know him like that anymore. I used to do a good George Bush. I actually used to be on this Blog Talk radio show with Johnny and Jason and just do a segment every week of George Bush being
Not Jason,
saying
our brother.
nonsense. No, Jason, our friend Jason. All right. So that was our writers. But of course, before I get into this, and how can I skip over this guy? I'm sorry in advance, Matt. There's no skipping here because he's the head writer, the director of content and lead writer for Broto Fantasy. That's Matthew Ward. He can't join us today. Usually he's on the pod with us, but he can't join us because he's on a trip. He is hitting the road. He's on the road right now, but he has his hat hanger. Now, I do want to warn you, all right, because this might be a little freaky. It's going to look like you're in the Matrix a little bit because he recorded it with this
on
whole
StreamYard.
Yeah, on StreamYard with this whole rigmarole that we got going on here. So it's like a double in there, and there's no way to really just make him the screen. We have to be somewhere on the screen for whatever reason. So just warning you in advance about that. But also, if you're gonna stick around for anything that makes you look crazy, it's got to be for Matt's bars, because Matt's bars, even if you have to look at things crazy, they're worth it. So let's take a look at who Matt is hanging his hat on.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy at PsychordFF, the Dynasty Don, and I had to bring you my hat hanger this year. If you know me, we're going down south. We're going to Louisiana. It's New Orleans, Chris Olave, wide receiver, 12, 26 overall ADP. Somehow, in my opinion, still being criminally undervalued even after putting up what should be considered a near transcendent rookie season that saw the Saints wideout secure 72 receptions on 119 targets, 1,045 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. He posted historically elite target shares for any receiver in their first season with incredible efficiency as well. Earned a 26.7% target share, 29.3% target rate, averaged 8.8 yards per target and 14.5 yards per reception. His target share ranked in the top 15 of all players in 2022, with his target rate ranking top 10 and both his yards per target and yards per reception averages ranking inside of the top 22 wide receivers last season. Olave's quickly become one of the best deep threats in the NFL, period. End of sentence. He owns the 3rd highest single game air yard share ever, and he did so as a rookie. He also averaged an unheralded 2.57 yards per route run. That was wide receiver 10, and 2.25 yards per team pass attempt as a rookie. That was wide receiver 9. That puts Chris Olave in rarefied air amongst the greatest rookie seasons in NFL history for a wide receiver. He stands in a list amongst Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Stephon Diggs, and Cooper Kupp as the only players last season that had more than 2.4 yards per route run with a target share higher than 25%. Every single one of those wide receivers finished the top 10 points per game. And since the 2014 draft, there have only been 3 rookie wide receivers to have at least 2.25 yards per route run in their first season: Chris Olave, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase. The lists go on and on and on. Lastly, he joins Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Odell Beckham Jr., and A.J. Brown as the only wide receivers in NFL history, regardless of round, regardless of draft capital, that have compiled more than 2.25 yards per team pass attempt in their first season. He is as elite as it gets. And by no means, it is the assumption that, Derek Carr isn't a quarterback upgrade it's nonsense. Derek Carr is an excellent quarterback upgrade, and he's a great quarterback upgrade specifically for the Saints. I understand that it's not like as much of a needle mover as say, obviously Garrett Wilson's rising price with Aaron Rodgers, but Derek Carr is still the perfect fit for the Saints system for all the budding weapons there. He ranked 5th in air yards last season, 5th in tight window throws of 15 yards or more downfield, 5th in deep ball attempts, 2nd in air yards per pass attempt. And over the last 3 seasons, Derek Carr ranks top 5 in both deep ball completion percentage and deep balls thrown per game. Over the last 4 seasons, Carr has supported the wide receiver 3, the wide receiver 10, tight end 2, and tight end 3 overall in points per game as pass catching assets. Conversely, Aaron Rodgers had his lowest yards per attempt since 2015 during the 2022 season, ranking 24th in completion percentage and averaged just 14.8 points per game. So is there really that big of a gap? In my opinion, no. Olave's ceiling is as high as any second-year wideout in NFL history, and I mean that with no sense of hyperbole whatsoever. I'm more than willing to hang my hat high on Chris Olave this season.
The uncomparable Matthew Ward. I love myself some Chris Olave this season, man. I'm with him.
Chris Olave was my round 2 target in our home league before I ended up taking Ramondre Stevenson. So yeah, I'm all aboard the Olave train too. I have no issue taking him in the second round. I would not take him over Garrett Wilson, but I would take him in the second round as my wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, depending on, depending how your first round went.
Chris Olave is someone who his ADP is low because I think there's too many novices playing fantasy football. I think if you're in a league with people,
Well, what do you consider low?
Middle of the second round. I mean, so top of the third round.
I don't think I've seen him. I don't think I've seen him lower than like 27 on any platform, really. But yeah,
27 is too low.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
the third
think
round. He's going in the second
Right.
round, unlike in like all major drafts,
Right.
like FFPC.
Or if you're in a draft with people who know what they're talking about, people who know what
Yeah.
they're doing, really like pay attention.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a guy that don't look at him and be like, yo, I can put him on my roster. He's gonna be there. It's just if you're playing with sharps, it's just not gonna be there. Speaking of playing with sharps, if you're playing with sharps, you're gonna need some positional advantages. And you know what, Michael? I will say this. There's a chance that this is one of my classic being too early on a guy.
Oh boy, here we go.
I have a knack for calling on a guy's like ascension, and then it happens the year after. Like, for example, I was all about Jamal Williams because of his work on the goal line 2 years ago. That really worked out last year. But so the reason why I think of that about that is because I was listening back. But this year I'm hanging my hat on this guy because I think this is the year. And I think this is the year because I've been saying that this is the year. When the entire fantasy realm was telling you to draft this man as a tight end 4 as a rookie.
Your hat hanger, huh? Jeez Louise.
As a rookie, Michael, I said, nay, don't do it. Last year, when the industry was like, don't worry, he was a rookie. He played really well. Draft him even higher. I said, nay, don't do it. But this year, while all those people were telling you to do something that wasn't going to happen, now he's fallen to a wonderful place called the back of the 5th, early 6th round. A beautiful, tremendous place. Because you know what? Those people need Kyle Pitts. Because right there in that realm, you're not getting one of the big 4. You got to take a risk in that first round, and you need your 5th, 6th round picks to hit. And Kyle Pitts is going to hit. Now, I just talked about him on the Heat Wave, so I'm not going to go. No, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do it again. Kyle Pitts, I think this is finally the year, man. Injury-shortened year hampered him last season. You can't forget that it was the injury-shortened year. But before he left, he was 9th in true target value. He was 5th in yards per catch, and he was 1st in ADOT amongst all tight ends. Now, the reason why these stats are important is because it gives you an offense. It gives you an idea of the role in the offense. And this offense is one of the reasons why I like Kyle Pitts. That was not the case last year. Last year, he was a victim of bad quarterback play and no TDs at all. In fact, he caught less than 50% of his passes. I'm sure you've heard this stat ad nauseum wherever you hear podcasts, but I'm going to say it again. Last year, he led the NFL in off-target pass rate, the 34% according to USA Today. He was number 1 in unrealized true air yards, our very own stat, and he was in regular air yards too, without even true regular air yards too, where he had the most. If you guys don't know what air yards are, they're like the passes that are even incomplete, how many yards go to you. He had the most unrealized air yards of anyone. He only had 5 total opportunities in the red zone and turned 2 of them into touchdowns. This year, he is healthy. This year, he has a quarterback that is more capable of doing what he needs to do. And Desmond Ridder brings a rushing presence. I'm going to get into Desmond Ridder in a second. But Desmond Ridder brings a rushing presence that's going to make this offense an RPO offense. And when you have a guy like Desmond Ridder who can run, and you have a guy like Bijan Robinson, right, you're going to need to put those outside linebackers and those nickel safeties. They're going to flinch, man. And when they flinch, Kyle Pitts is going to be the recipient every single freaking time. And the reason why I know this, the reason why I feel this way is because it's year 3. And I've been telling you for 3 years that by the time it's year 3, I'm going to like Kyle Pitts because he's a freaking unicorn. And you can only keep talent like that down for so long for the learning curve. I think he's reached that learning curve. You saw him play well in what he did in the preseason. The emergence of Drake London as well, I think, helps him. I know that Drake London, it was also a hat hanger here. I can't really be on the Drake London hat hang and think Kyle Pitts is a hat hanger because I think Kyle Pitts is going to be as high as tight end 2. I'm not going to say like he's going to dethrone Travis Kelce. I'm not going to go that far. But I think he can get to as high as tight end 2 and be a better pick than a guy like Mark Andrews who's going 3-4 rounds before him. They have more trust in the QB position than they did last year, the Falcons overall. We're going to get into that in a second. But let's go over some tight ends first that had their best seasons or one of their best seasons in year 3. Travis Kelce made his first Pro Bowl ever in year 3. Now, that's a little bit off. You know, he made his first Pro Bowl ever in year 3, but that was really his second year on the field because he missed his first year to injury. So if you fast forward and go to the next year, that was the Travis Kelce breakout year. Technically year 4, but really year 3 of him being on the field. So if you're talking about Travis Kelce, the guy that he's, compared to, he broke out. Either way you're looking at it, he broke out in year 3. Rob Gronkowski had 18 points per game that year. Jordan Reed had 17 points per game. George Kittle, Jimmy Graham, Julius Thomas all had over 15 points per game. Tyler Eifert, Cameron Jordan, Evan Ingram, Aaron Hernandez all had over 13 points per game. Even Mark Andrews had almost 13 points per game. TJ Hawkinson, he finally broke into usable tight end. Before that, he was completely unusable. He had 12 PPR points per game. These are guys that all broke out in year 3. It all happened recently, and I think it's going to happen again for Kyle Pitts. I think it's also worthwhile to note that he doesn't need to break out, Kyle Pitts, because he already broke out. In his rookie season, he had 1,000 yards. All right, I already did this trick, so I'm not going to do it again. The complete list of people who have ever had 1,000 yards as a rookie tight end: Kyle Pitts and Mike Ditka in 1961.
Mike Ditka.
Him. Yeah, the guy who basically looks like a cartoon from 1973. Yeah, that's the guy who was already retired by 1973. That's the only other guy to do it. He already had his breakout season. It was the unrealistic expectations that have pushed him down here. You are never going to draft Kyle Pitts again in the 6th round, 5th round, ever. Like, there is no chance that Kyle Pitts is a 6th round pick next year. No chance. He's going to go way higher. They have a great O-line, top 10 according to PFF. I can go on. I can keep going. I'm going to keep going because I think Desmond Ridder is someone that is going to pass the ball a little more than you saw last year. Now, they're going to be, when you say run heavy, like Tyler Algier is going to get his work. Bijan Robinson is going to get his work. Desmond Ridder is going to run. But they're still, even if they break, like if they go, they ran the most of any team since we tracked that statistic on the app. So since 2015, they've run the most of any team. Still, 501 attempts. I mean, a decent amount of attempts. Not 501. That's the wrong stat. Excuse me. Back up. Like, there were still a decent amount of attempts from the quarterbacks that were there that made him peripherally a very good target last year, even though that didn't turn into touchdowns. Now, Desmond Ridder, usually when a team goes to a rookie quarterback, they give him less. They put less on his back. That's not the case with Desmond Ridder. In 13 games with Marcus Mariota, the Falcons averaged 23 pass attempts per game and 14 completions per game. In 4 games with Ridder, they had 29 pass attempts per game. That's +6. 29 pass attempts per game if they're going only to 2 people and Bijan Robinson, like, that's enough. Like, you don't really have to go over that. And 18 completions per game. That sounds like 7 catches for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns for Kyle Pitts. That's what that sounds like to me. And I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you're going to see a lot of Kyle Pitts sneaking in the backfield and going ham. And you know what? I'm hanging my hat on it. Michael, you seem surprised.
I'm just surprised you chose Kyle Pitts. I know you like Kyle Pitts. I don't know he's your hat hanger. But I do want to add, it's the tight end is Jordan Cameron, not Cameron Jordan. I was mad confused when you said Cameron Jordan. It's
Yes,
Jordan
Jordan
Cameron.
Cameron.
And I also cannot believe that 2 hat hangers are Desmond Ritter pass catchers. But let's see how it goes.
I like Desmond Ritter, man. I think he has some potential. Matt Ward ranked Desmond Ritter as the #1 quarterback of that draft class, and Desmond Ritter, Kenny Pickett, 2 starters from that draft class that people thought
Kenny Pickett.
wasn't going to do anything, and then but at the same time, like Trey Lance just got traded for 4th-round pick. Zach Wilson sitting on the bench. So if you can play, you can play. That's just what it is. Thank you so much to Themi. You can find him at Gridiron Greek. Gianluca, you can find him at _G Martini. Nick, you can find him at Nick Bialiu. Boulier. Boulier. There you go. I'm just kidding with you, bro. We love you. At that, spell it out. Trenton at Trenton Roberts NFL. Clay at FF_Pulse_88. Matt, of course, at PsychWardFF. And you got us too right here at Broto Tim, at Broto Mike, BrotoFantasy.com, Fantasy Football by Broto app, and most importantly, after this episode, Patreon.com/BrotoFantasy to listen to the complete episodes. We have one more episode coming to you before we get next week is when we start. This we have our previews coming next week. Preview episode is going to be me and Cass.
Week 1, baby.
Yes, Michael is not going to be there, but he will send his notes and all that stuff that we need to know. And yeah, his rankings and all that stuff will be updated. We are going to release a rankings update because the preseason's over, and so our final rankings update is coming soon. Definitely before the next episode comes out, which is going to be later this week. Which is going to be our sleepers and bust episode. Very important to tune into that one. All right. So with that being said, that's all from us. For Mike, I'm Tim. Michael, let me ask you a very important question, though.
Yes,
right?
Tim.
If you could eat only one thing for the rest of your days, right? But you had the choice of this: seared pork chops, candied ham, bacon, or ribs. Which pork item are you going with?
Has to be the pork chops or the ribs.
That's not an answer. You got to give me one answer.
I'll go with the ribs.